The first punch landed so hard it rattled the glasses on the table, and the whole diner went silent. Forks froze midair. Coffee stopped pouring. And in that sharp, electric pause, a little girl's voice cut through the tension like glass breaking. "Daddy." Mark never looked away from the three men standing over the waitress. He just reached back, found his daughter's small hand, and squeezed it once. Steady. Reassuring. The way he'd learned to do after too many nights when the world scared her. Then he stood up slowly, calmly, like a man who had already decided how this would end. The waitress's name was Lily, though no one bothered to learn it. She was 22, working double shifts at the roadside diner because rent didn't care that she was tired or that her feet burned every night. She had learned to smile automatically, to apologize even when things weren't her fault, and to lower her eyes when customers got loud. It was easier that way. Safer. Until the three thugs came in. They smelled of alcohol and arrogance, the kind of men who took up space like it belonged to them. At first it was just comments, too loud, too personal. Lily tried to brush it off. She'd done this dance before. But when she spilled a few drops of beer while refilling a glass, one of them laughed and called her stupid. Another grabbed her wrist and told her to smile properly. That was when Mark noticed. He hadn't planned on stopping there that night. His daughter Emma was exhausted after a school play rehearsal, her head already drooping against the car window. But the fridge at home was empty again, and payday was still 2 days away. The diner's neon sign flickered like a promise: cheap food, warm lights, somewhere to sit down. Mark had learned to read rooms since becoming a single dad. When you're responsible for a child, you notice everything. The way voices change. The way fear moves through a space. The way a young woman stiffens when she's being cornered and doesn't know how to get out. Emma felt it too. She squeezed his hand under the table. "Daddy," she whispered, "that lady looks scared." Mark's jaw tightened. He'd promised himself years ago that he wouldn't get involved anymore. That he'd keep his head down, focus on Emma, survive quietly. Life had taught him what happened to men who stepped in: they lost jobs, got hurt, made things worse. But then one of the men shoved Lily, just a little, like it was a joke. Mark stood up. "Hey," he said, not raising his voice. "You don't touch her." The diner manager froze behind the counter, torn between fear and the hope that this would resolve itself without him choosing a side. The other customers stared at their plates. The thugs turned, surprised that someone like Mark had spoken. He didn't look impressive. Mid-30s. Worn jacket. Tired eyes. The kind of man you overlook. One of them smirked. "Sit down, hero. This doesn't concern you." Mark stepped closer, putting himself between Lily and the men. "It concerns me because you're hurting someone," he said. "And because my daughter is watching." That was when the punch came. It knocked him sideways into the table, pain blooming across his cheekbone. Emma screamed. Lily gasped. And something inside Mark, something he'd buried under years of responsibility and restraint, snapped. He didn't fight like a movie hero. He fought like a father. Desperate. Focused. Protective. He took hits, landed a few of his own, just enough to push the men back, just enough to buy time. Chairs scraped. Someone finally called the police. When it was over, Mark was bleeding, shaking, and holding Emma so tightly she could barely breathe. The thugs were gone, shouting threats as they stumbled out the door. The diner was a mess of overturned stools and broken glass. Lily stood there, hands trembling, tears streaking down her face. "I'm so sorry," she said to Mark, the words spilling out of her like a reflex. "I didn't mean for, this wasn't." Mark looked at her, really looked at her. The bruising already forming on her wrist. The way she blamed herself without thinking. "You don't need to explain," he said gently. Then, quieter, "You only need to know I love you." The words surprised them both. Lily blinked. "What? I don't know you," Mark said. "But I know what it's like to be scared and alone, and I know you didn't deserve that. So yeah, I love you. That's enough." No one had ever said that to Lily without wanting something in return. She broke down right there, sobbing into her hands, the strength she'd been borrowing for years finally gone. The police came. Statements were taken. An ambulance checked Mark's injuries. Emma refused to let go of him, her small arms wrapped around his neck like an anchor. That should have been the end of it. A dramatic night. A story to tell later. But life doesn't end scenes neatly. The next morning, Mark got a call from his boss. There had been a complaint. A fight. Bad publicity. He was being let go. Mark sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone long after the call ended. Emma was eating cereal, watching him carefully. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked softly. "No," Mark said, his voice thick. "You didn't. But inside, fear crept in. Rent, bills, school. He'd risked everything, and now he'd lost what little stability he had. 3 days later, Lily showed up at his door. She looked different without the diner uniform. Nervous, determined, holding a paper bag that smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls. I asked around, she said. I found out where you lived. I hope that's not creepy. Mark almost laughed. It's fine. She told him everything then. How the diner manager had tried to brush the incident under the rug. How she'd finally filed a report. How she'd quit her job because she couldn't stand walking back into that place. I don't know what I'm going to do, she admitted. But I couldn't just disappear after what you did. She reached into the bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was cash, tips she'd saved, money coworkers had quietly added when they heard the story. I know it's not much, she said quickly. But you lost your job because of me. Mark pushed the envelope back. I lost my job because I made a choice, he said. I'd make it again. They sat there in awkward silence, Emma coloring on the floor between them. Then Lily said, I have an idea. It's crazy, but my aunt owns a small cafe. She's looking for someone to manage mornings. You're good with people, and with kids. She smiled at Emma. I asked. Mark hesitated. Pride whispered that he should handle this alone. Fear warned him not to hope too much. But Emma looked up and said, Daddy, I like her. That settled it. The cafe wasn't fancy. It was warm, honest, the kind of place where names mattered. Lily worked there too, saving money, learning, healing. Mark took the job and found something he hadn't felt in years, belonging. Months passed. The bruises faded. The fear loosened its grip. Lily learned to laugh again without flinching. Mark learned that strength didn't always mean standing alone. One evening, after closing, they sat at a corner table while Emma slept in the back office, wrapped in Mark's jacket. Lily stared into her mug. You know, she said, that night at the diner, when you said you loved me. Mark smiled softly. I meant it. I know, she said. And it changed something in me. I stopped believing I deserved to be treated like nothing. He reached across the table, not rushing, not assuming. Just there. Love didn't arrive like fireworks. It grew quietly, in shared shifts, in small kindnesses, in the understanding that sometimes, one brave moment can reroute an entire life. Years later, Emma would tell the story like a legend. About the night her dad stood up when no one else did. About the waitress who became family. About how love didn't need permission or perfect timing, just courage. And somewhere in the telling, the message remained clear and steady. You don't have to be powerful to make a difference. You don't have to know all the answers. Sometimes, all you need to say, and mean, is, I see you. You matter. I love you.